Welcome back to the lab. Yesterday's video talking about a gear lever for this thing, setting it up for our HGT Sequential gearbox. And I said to you, right, so that's what I'm doing until I come out in the morning and change my mind or something. Did I say change my mind? Something to that effect. Of course, that did happen because I thought about it all night. Thought about what it was going to cost to get the rod ends for my bell crank arrangement, which is probably nothing, to be fair. Waikato bearings are pretty good. Machine time, fluffing around, materials and all that. Actual costs are nothing, but time is starting to become a thing, right? It's November now. This hat looks silly, doesn't it? That looks silly too. Never mind. It's November now, and really the thing needs to be going end of November was my goal. Lockdowns have probably actually helped get it along quicker than what it may have done otherwise. But we do need to think about time. Let's have a look at what I'm doing. Pulled the lever off the gearbox. I did discuss earlier on, a long time ago, that there was an option there to take the lever instead of having it this way. So gearbox that direction, right? Push, that goes up a gear. Click into first gear. All the way through to 5, right? The option, because we've got the thing in the car backwards, flip that lever up the other way. That lever then interferes with the transmission tunnel. Considered chopping off the longer section there and just using the shorter holes, which makes it harder to move gear. This is second hand, by the way, pre-loved. Don't worry about these marks. Who knows what what the previous owner has been up to with it. So that could potentially work, even using the shorter lever, so harder to pull it through the gears. It would still require modifications to the transmission tunnel. I weighed those up. Amount of time to do that versus materials versus the end result versus simplicity versus what people are going to expect me to do. Because let's be honest, there's a certain amount of, if you don't conform to the norm and operate within the box that most people expect you to operate within, if you step outside of those boundaries and something goes even a little bit wrong, everybody thinks they're a genius and want to tell you, they told you so. So we probably need to try and keep it as simple as we possibly can. So we'll have the pivot point there with the lever down there with the pivot at the bottom. We'll flick this one up the other way. We'll figure out how big it needs to be. Some sort of a speed bump arrangement, power bulge, teardrop, whatever. Some sort of we've got to drill a hole in here where that's marked out, and we've got to have a lever poking up through there by the tiniest amount. It's unfortunate. If I'd got things a little bit better with my guesstimations earlier on, this transmission tunnel would have simply been a little bit higher up here. We're only talking 5 to 6 millimeters of interference, so hey, that happens. I'm not worried. We're not, as I've mentioned earlier, we're not particularly worried about damaging this paintwork or anything like that, so I'll do something that's going to look right. I have a plan. We do need to reinforce this area as well, and seeing as this area is very close to this area, and we have to put a tiny little wee power bulgy type thing on the other side to get the bracket for the reversing cable if we want to use that in the traditional layout. So it might be that there's a entire section that goes in here. Let's see what I do there. It could be something maybe aluminium, or it might be carbon fiber, or whatever. Carbon fiber would look pretty bling, wouldn't it? And I'm perfectly capable of making a plug for a dooflicky to go in there, all nicely shaped and look all fancy as. Okay, I'm going to drill some more holes. I already started. I can't remember your name. One of you guys suggested doing this. Maybe you hadn't seen the previous video where I did talk about it and decided I didn't want to. Look, I change my mind all the time, right? So this thing doesn't follow a strict plan. We don't necessarily... There are some things written on the whiteboard there in the corner there. We don't necessarily write everything down and follow exactly the blueprint and come out with a result at the end. Some things chop and change as we go. That's the fun of it.
Poignant moments of silence there. Just a tiny little hole to make that gear lever fit up that way, like a hole probably the size of the palm of my hand. That's kind of why I was thinking about avoiding that to start with. Too late now. She got a hole in it. We'll do the same on the other side. Probably a bit smaller hole, but not a heck of a lot. So the transmission tunnel will have lost significant strength through that area there. So I'll have to work on reinforcing that. Ain't no way that's happening without some welding and things like that. Drew some lines up here so I knew where we were with angles and stuff to minimize the twisting effect on our levers. Your rod end normally goes in between the fork, obviously. In this situation, that's completely impractical because we'd have to have a significant angle from there to there, or shift the lever way over that way where it would be uncomfortable use in the car. This is going to have no problems here at all. That will be absolutely fine. It will possibly put a twisting moment on here, but there should be sufficient strength in that to deal with that. As far as loading on these bearings and everything here, that's actually better because we've put the force closer to the bearings at each end of that shaft. So it's actually twisting the mechanism inside here less than what it would be if it was there. It is adding force on here, a twisting force on this spline that it wouldn't normally have, but it's going to be fine. I'm totally happy with it. Same deal up here. This is loading that up torsionally that way as you're trying to operate it backwards and forwards like that, but it will be fine. Yeah, there. You can see where we would have been with angles. We would have had to have come from there way across to there. That's not good. Whereas now we are basically straight or pretty close to it. So, not going to be able to play bang bangs in there just yet. Make revy bang psh noises and change gears because gear lever's not attached at the top. So that's all just going to slide around like crazy. We can work out where it needs to be, pop a couple of screws in there to hold it, or clamps or something, and check for travels and all that sort of stuff. Make sure when we put the gear lever forward it doesn't smash into the dash and all that sort of carry on, and make sure that we've got this about right. That shaft is adjustable, of course. You'll notice I polished that. Why not, eh? Might as well. We're polishing lots of other things, so why not? Let's have a look from up top. That's how close we were to getting away with it. I said 5 to 7 millimeters or something like that. If I'd put the top of the transmission tunnel 10 millimeters higher up, that would have worked. As Jack Sparrow would say, stop putting holes in my ship. Okay, transmission tunnel. And I put the holes in so I can tell people stop putting holes in. Oh, it put a hole in it there. That's not the final hole. It's a little bit rough. It's not too bad. We kind of need that one there, unfortunately, just because of the way things work, how everything has to be installed, in what sequence, etc., etc. Kind of end up having to have a hole there so that we can put the reverse cable in once the gearbox is in the car. There probably is a way around that. If I think about it carefully, we might be able to hook up this end of the... Oh, sorry, you have to put that in first, right? And then you put this end in. You can't put that in until the gear lever is in the car. So you could potentially have the gearbox down underneath the car. The gear lever in, put the cable on and everything, set it all up on the ground somehow, and then lift the gearbox up into the car. But it's just a bit yucky, a bit messy. If we have an access panel here, then we can just set it all up. Here's everything right here. We can operate it and we can check that it's working properly. There's that lever that I was talking about. I showed you this in the previous video. Push that, pull that, there. Whoops, put my elbow on the cage. We are in reverse. I know that's pulling on a little bit of an angle there.
That's because I've turned this bracket inside out and I've fiddled with this and fiddled with that, and everything's chopped and changed to work acceptably in this arrangement. It's not necessarily how it's designed to operate. To come out of reverse, push the lever, and that's that. So obviously we're not going to be using our right hand to do that when we're driving the car. You'll do that with your left. But that's how that works. So we can now select reverse, and we can select neutral and go through all the gears. This isn't actually attached yet because, as I mentioned earlier, there's no point in attaching to that. That has got a significant amount of wobble there just from the skin alone, so there has to be some sort of reinforcement going on there before we attach that to that. We have to make this panel will be pretty easy. This one here would actually literally be a flat panel. That would be not too bad. We'd probably put 4 riv nuts in this skin here, bit of sealant on it, bang, done, good. The seat goes here, hides all that anyway. It'll be fine. It'll be totally acceptable. The other one, not as easy as that. That sits a little bit proud, like that, see? And it's right in everyone's face, right where you see it. Look in the car, there it is, sitting right there. Unless we put the passenger seat in all the time to try and hide it a little bit. But I don't want to be running around trying to go as fast as we possibly can go and have a passenger seat in the car when there's no passenger. That's silly.
So under here, everything's looking all right for this stage. Whether this panel here stays there or not, we'll decide later on. But for now, we need to hold that gear lever mechanism steady. We can't have that moving around, wobbling around all over the place. You get all sorts of nasty things going on. You get inconsistent readings from your shift cut knob, which we don't have yet, but we're getting. So you need that firmly mounted. I've made these up because it was quick, fast, easy, simple. It's just billet aluminium if you want to make it sound fancy, but it's just a piece of extrusion that's got the right, should have the right thread pitch and holes and all that sort of carry on. It's just going to go on there. It's going to spread the load out across that panel and stop that wobbling around quite as much. There should be enough hanging out the sides here so we can pop a hole straight through here and through here. Be quiet, drive shaft. And put a screw through there with a penny washer either side of it just to stabilize it that little bit more. And that should be right, and it probably would last long term. I don't think I'm going to leave them in there long term though. So how do you hold something like that up there by yourself and get some bolts in there to hold it? What you do is climb up the other side, some bolts that are much, much longer than what you need, drop one through each end, 1, 2, like that, come back underneath the car. You can hold the bolt, turn it with your hand and screw it into your piece that you're trying to put on there. Then you can go back up the top, pull it up with the end of the bolt and put the bolts in either end, then take the one out of the middle, bang, 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 done. Clever, eh?
Alright. That is rock solid. Good as gold. Just see if it changes gears. You probably shouldn't do it without the gearbox moving, right, or the engine moving, because the dog rings won't necessarily line up inside there and you'll be trying to bang it into a gear that it just can't do. But it's probably in gear. I guess I'm not gonna. Oh, I can get my fingers in there actually. Yep. It's the dog's ding-donging inside the gearbox there. We're in gear and my finger's stuck. Don't put your hand in small spots with your wedding ring on. Yeah, it's probably not going to go. Back down to neutral, I'm assuming. This is quite hard to do one-handed. That must be reversed now. See, we can't do any other gears. It's locked into reverse. Just put my finger back in there to get stuck again. Sure is. Yeah. So, need to do something with that stop on the clutch, like I said earlier on in the video when we were covering that. I might be able to show you somewhere in there. There, the shiny thing you see right there, that's a custom stopper that I made to stop the pedal travelling too far, over travelling everything. That needs to be shorter for this setup. It's a different sized bore effectively on the slave cylinder compared to the master, so we've got a different amount of travel. So that needs to be set up properly, which can't really be done until we've got our drive shaft done. We've got material sitting on the bench to do the adapters. There's something underway to get that sorted out. Gonna make up my mind. This one's easy. This simple panel over the top of that will be fine. That one's not as easy. Got to do something with that. That'll probably do us for this side anyway. Could make that out of carbon fibre. I guess I've got some carbon fibre sheet left over, but that's fine. Carbon fibre will burn through faster than aluminium in case we have some sort of a bonfire in the transmission tunnel there. I've made a start on the other side. You get the basic idea of what I'm up to there. It'll look nice when it's done. Right now, not so much. Same as all this stuff that you can see here. By the time you put seat in, that's fine. So, pretty good. Gear lever is in, functioning, not 100% finished. There's actually some loose bolts underneath, but you tighten those up very quickly, and that side of it is functional, ready to go for dyno tuning, etc. Obviously a lot of shaping to do on this panel on this side, but I think that'll look alright once it's done. And again, that could be done in carbon fibre, and it perhaps might be a nicer way to finish that off. Don't forget the two holes there. We've got a fire extinguisher there. We've got to put some sheathing over our harness here, and that runs through in the general area there, so hopefully it doesn't start looking awfully cluttered. Oh, speaking of looking, wait 1 second. That's more better, isn't it? More gooder. Should look alright, should look good. Could actually, if I do a nice job on the welding on this and buff them all off so that it looks like it's one piece, and then I could just vinyl wrap it in silver, that'll look perfect. Enough. Cool. Alright guys, thanks for watching. We'll carry on with this tomorrow maybe. Probably should do Abby. Yeah, let's make some progress on that. Alright, cheers for watching. Thanks, bye.